Welcome to House Business, the podcast where we give you business ideas on the house. I'm your host, Nicole.
And I'm your host, Marc.
And each week we come and give you a new idea. You get to decide if you like that idea, if you want to take that idea, but we will talk it through, debate it a little. And the best part is it's yours on the house.
And my idea this week is keep safe.
This right here feel like money. This right here feel like money. Ooh. Money moves. Ooh. Money moves. Ooh. This right here feel like money. This right here feel like money. Ooh.
So we had a listener ask us about episode 7, Spin to Win.
Mm-hmm.
And their question was, if you won, we'll say at a laundromat casino, which we want to see invented, but if you won $1 million, Marc, how would you spend that? And I'm just going to say, this is Nicole's addition to that question. I don't want to hear any, you're going to save it, invest it, or give it to charity. Like, I want to hear what you would spend. You get the $1 million, you have to spend the whole thing.
Totally. First thing I'd do is I'd put it all on the roulette table, all on black, to double it immediately. So that would be my first thing. So after I've doubled the first $1 million, because we're gonna hit it on the roulette table. The second $1 million, I think, instead of asking to be invited to all these boats that we want to go on, which if you take our ideas and you make millions and millions of dollars, remember your friends Marc and Nicole, just shout out there. I would get our own boat that you could freely use sometimes.
Perfect.
Whenever
I'd be like
whenever I let
co-captain,
you.
Co-captain.
You could be you could be co-captain for sure. Okay. We'll put like our faces on the side of like the thing. I'd get a painted custom boat and like an authentic like pirate's hat, I think. And I think I'd have some left over, but I'm gonna start with that. I don't think I'd spend all of it yet, but first thing first, I double the money, or I go all out and lose it all. So that's my start.
I love this because similar, I feel like this just says so much about where our mindset goes. I like that you're already like, well, first of all, I'm going to make more money off of this winning. Because I went to something similar. I'm clearly, obviously traveling, probably going somewhere very warm, like Mallorca or the Maldives or something great. But I have thought through like, I'd be like racking up those airline points and those hotel points as I'm doing this and spending the money so that it's like the investment that keeps on giving with more free stuff. But I definitely live pretty lavish and spend it pretty fast. Like probably I could spend it within the year, just like traveling. And
you could spend $1 million in a year, you think?
I mean, I'd be like flying all my friends out. Like I'd be buying like massive places, resorts, like renting it out. But yeah, if I had to spend it, I'd spend it.
You'd be a travel year for sure.
It would be.
Yeah,
it would be. But with the caveat of a travel year, investing on my future travel year through points so that I'm basically always traveling for free for the rest of my life. There you go.
See, now I think that's a type of investing, which you told me I couldn't do.
I guess I did say no investing. So there we go. I mean, like, you can't like, when people are like, well, I'd put half aside into savings or I'd pay for college. It's like, no, like, you got to spend that.
Who's responsible anymore?
No.
Who needs to be?
Like, you live once, live large. So do it up.
Yeah. I'm buying a boat. I'm buying a pirate hat. I'm going to have a full outfit.
Gosh.
Authentic. And then, I haven't really thought of it past that.
Outfit. Okay.
Yeah. I think I would pull out some of the money and put it in like gold doubloons just to leave on the top of the deck,
Okay. I like that.
Just as an aesthetic choice.
We went to Oktoberfest last year, and one of the tents at Oktoberfest, it's like a traditional thing that they have massive bottles of Veuve, which I've never even seen bottles of champagne that large. And they were handing out umbrellas. We like didn't know what that was for either, and then put it together. It was for champagne showers. Like these people were spending money to just have champagne showers in this Oktoberfest tent. So while I'm like not keen on the idea of just like wasting champagne, I think that
sounds awesome.
I know, right? I'm like, you have to do that. So I feel like that would be part of my spending is like, we definitely have some massive bottles of champagne coming out, champagne showers. Probably like, why not go to Oktoberfest and do it there? But it looked pretty amazing.
What a waste of money, but how awesome would that be?
Right. But you got to waste the money. So it'd be perfect.
Totally.
So yeah.
What else?
You want to get into your idea?
You want to hear about keeping safe? You want to hear about keep safe?
Keep safe.
Keep
Of course
safe.
I do. Keep safe. Okay. Let's hear it.
Okay. Let's back up to where this idea came from. I was seeing some friends recently, and one of my good friends, his basement flooded recently.
Okay.
And big mess. And I don't know if you guys have had that before, but it's a big pain, and it can cause a lot of damage. And so he was talking about like going through the whole process and submitting it to insurance and things like that of the damage and getting it covered. So that's the original.
Basically, okay.
That's the origin of the idea. But the idea is to have to design a system that can integrate with a lot of other current systems that could be in your house, to keep a catalog of all the inventory that you have in the house, similar to that of a big distributor, a big manufacturer, the way they keep inventory, with the purpose of making those submissions to insurance easier and up to date so that you get fully back. You get to keep what you lost.
Okay.
More or less, the idea is to kind of catalog the items in your home similar to that of big company inventory, so that you can save money and save time down the line of if things go wrong, you can submit it to insurance and go from there. So that's
I'm curious like about so many things here.
Yes.
And I love that this came to you from someone going through like real life experience, because going through a flood or any type of home devastation, any natural disaster, it would be almost like just the icing on top of the cake to have to like go through that with insurance. Like, so frustrating and such a headache. So I think this is a good problem to solve. I'm curious how you envision this. Like, what does this look like?
Yeah, I would say that this is to take one step back and then jump back into the answer. I'd say this is a lot more of an unflashy idea, not a word, but less flashy than maybe we've typically talked about before. Hearing the problems that can come from that, there's a real need to make this process of submission a lot easier. So how I envision it, people put cameras in their homes.
Yep.
And kind of similar to that of a Ring camera, but kind of on the inside, typical security type stuff. Now, the idea is to have some kind of recognition software, which does already exist, like I said, in bigger companies with big inventory.
Like inventory, yeah. Okay.
Right, exactly. And inventory, thank you. I couldn't think of the word. But now that inventory is kept both electronically, but also in person. And there's a lot of work that goes into it. You wouldn't need as much in your house necessarily. So what I'm proposing is that this software be designed to estimate, calculate, and catalog all the different little items in your house that might be worth more. So now, when I say the security camera, I'm saying that it has a live feed or it takes a picture of different rooms in your house, wherever you set it up, particularly, let's say, like a basement where it's at risk for flooding. But also this could work for, let's say your house gets broken into and, people steal things or something like that, taking pictures and being able to analyze and estimate what do I think that product's worth based on my access to the internet and things like that. Another way that I had thought about it being introduced was, obviously manual entry into the app. Now that could be through a receipt or something like that, which might get you more kind of a one-to-one comparison, or like an individual picture, which will be able to identify where it is. So like I said, this stuff does already exist in different capacities, but I'm thinking of kind of combining a few different aspects of it and maybe lowering the scale to like the general population.
Yeah, I think there's certain individuals that probably are pretty good about cataloging their belongings. That type of individual is not me. And so that's where I'm like, I like that, but I'm sure that like exists out there. So I think this is taking out a huge like hassle part of that step, because I'm sure that's something that not many people do. And then when you're having to go through all this paperwork, it would just make that submission process so much easier. So I like that it's photos. I like that it's like in a catalog. And I can think of a couple comparisons that come to mind for me. But I guess when you're saying, there's other products out there, are you saying specifically something similar to this? The ones I'm thinking of are like vastly different. So I'm curious like where you're going with that.
They do have this equipment and this software for bigger companies. So I'm sure if we looked into it, I'm sure Amazon has a similar thing, or other big, huge inventory-based type companies. So that was the bigger one. Now, to get a little more specific to what we're talking about here, I did come across some companies kind of throughout the US that is similar in terms of helping you catalog the things in your house. However, the way it was kind of structured is that these are services where people come in and do almost like if there's land surveying, they do house surveying. So they'll inventory and catalog your items. The problem that this is solving, this keepsafe idea, is that is a live feed that can update as you add new things and take old things out of your house. If you pull in one of these companies, and I'm sure that they work, but you can only probably do it a few times a year. And how often are you switching out different items in your house all the time? Now, big items, maybe not, like furniture and things like that, but maybe smaller trinkets, jewelry, electronics, that's getting switched out pretty regularly, I would say, for quite a few people. So that was some of the comparisons that I had seen. Other than those kind of the bigger name ones, some smaller companies do in-person evaluations.
So when you're explaining this, my mind is going to an interface, and you can tell me if I'm off base here and bring me back, but almost to an interface similar to like a MyFitnessPal for food tracking. Have you ever used something like that?
Yes. Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay. So for the listener, it's a device or an app that you can scan a barcode on a product of food. You can scan a picture of your plate even, and it will give you kind of your macros of the item you're eating that you might be tracking, but also you can manually enter it. And so it's a great way that it like adds up over time, and it does that all through photo recognition, barcode recognition, or again, like you mentioned, manually entering. So that's like where my mind kind of went to in like a similar individual product. I agree with you. Anybody that has inventory or stock, any company, they probably have ways of doing this, but on a smaller individual scale and kind of an app, that's how I'm envisioning this. Is that something similar, or am I off base here?
That's a really good comparison that honestly I hadn't thought about. It's a perfectly apt comparison though, because some of these apps now, I use a different one, but it's very similar to that, where if somebody else has put in the item, that can get added to the catalog. So when you scan it, that's what you're basically pulling is like somebody else's manual entry, which is very helpful, for obscure type foods. But you do, like Nicole said, you will scan the barcode and go from there. I had more thought about it in the context of almost like an Amazon type interface. I had seen it as like, I want to be able to look at everything I have in the house right now. What is in, here you go. I like my one questions to, kick us off. What is in my basement? Not yours. You have a great basement, but like a lot of people put like lots of storage down in their basements. What is in my basement, or what is in my attic, or what is in the garage? Like, let's say I buy a new lawnmower and I forget that I have it, or bigger ticket items like that. And I put it in places that I'm like, okay, well, I can't find it. So I guess I'll just buy another one. People do that. Or I didn't even know that got damaged in the flood. I had no idea. That just got swept away, or whatever situation it is. I'm sort of seeing it like a live feed. So those similar to yours, and maybe that's the way to put it as entry. Think more Amazon was what was in my head.
Okay. So I love this for disaster recovery. I used to work for the American Red Cross, used to be pretty big into disaster response. And so I've seen firsthand, what can happen and what I guess the first few hours after a massive disaster look like for someone that, a lot of times they're even just looking for their ID or their shoes. To even like, again, wrap your head around the belongings you have. I think you're making a perfect point of even knowing like what is damaged is something you really can't understand until you're in that situation. So I do love it for that. And I think there would just be a really huge need for this product if you could get it figured out in a disaster response area. So that's one. Two, I'll go to just like we were talking about the event that I had this weekend and some of my House of Heidi stuff. I would love it even on the side of kind of when you're saying like you're in the basement or you're in storage. I think of people for like Christmas storage, even if you took this app like a step further of reminding yourself what you have, where it's at. It'd even just be like a great cataloging source for, I'm thinking of myself with some of the decor items I had from last year, trying to track it down, remember what I had, and remembering what to get. So I think where your idea is coming from, where I'm going with this is the disaster side. I think it's amazing. I also think there is a need that you could use this app for many more items, depending, what your lifestyle looks like, or even if you have a small business in your home. I don't know why I go to Christmas. I think of people hoarding Christmas decor for some reason, like in their garage. And
makes perfect sense.
Like you always get it out and you're like, oh my gosh, I've bought way too much this year or whatever that might look like. So I have more questions. Do you want me to keep going or you got anything? Okay.
Yeah, no, the Christmas is great. And really, it's a great representation of things that like you will only use every so often, which is kind of also to the point too of like the idea came from the flood, and he might not necessarily know what was in my friend's basement at the time. And to the disaster relief side, let's say I had something relatively expensive down there. Like I want to be compensated for that because I am paying, let's just say I'm in this scenario paying for flood insurance or whatever it is. I'm going to want that paid out. But the idea is like things you don't always see.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that you're not entitled to the value of that thing that you own.
Now, I have a question. I think that's a great segue into your friend. Did they explain at all? Because I'm not familiar with this. I've never, thankfully, have had to submit claims for a disaster. What is like the minimum you can submit? Did they kind of talk through that process? And maybe we're getting like a little ahead of ourselves here or in over our skis, however you want to say that. Like this isn't really our area. But was that something that came up? Because I guess where I'm maybe wanting to talk this through a little bit more is just a little bit about the insurance side and how that would work. So was that mentioned at all?
I think it came up more in the context of I'm already having to move all my stuff out. I am already needing to find the source of the problem. And now I also have to deal with the insurance to make sure that they can help pay for some of the renovations. So I'll be honest, the conversation was less about the insurance specifically. The idea comes from helping at least one aspect of the multiple difficulties that you have to go through in that scenario. So the best way that I think I can answer your question is the minimums or the coverage is going to vary based on how much you pay for that particular insurance. That I think is pretty safe to say. The submission process would I would imagine be similar to that if you had done it in other contexts. You have to, there's got to be a level of proof. You got to at least, submit the items that, my laptop broke in there, my TV broke down there, these things should have been covered and I have a limit probably. So I guess in terms of verification and validation, I'm not the expert in that. I wouldn't exactly know. But I think that would be a pretty quick, based on the plan that you have to be able to figure out.
I think you're right there. It would totally depend on, everyone has different coverage. So it would look different. I think that's a really great counterpoint to that question. And I think where I'm going with this is, do you envision this platform being like that proof, like an easy way of, okay, I've scanned this all, that it could almost directly link to your insurance company? Because that would even take, you'd really have to verify that you own the stuff that's then being submitted. But do you envision like that extra step being a part of it? Or is this more just a personal inventory?
Yeah. So I did think about that. And there's pros and cons to this exact point. The good thing about it is, let's say you are hooked up directly to your insurance company and they have a copy of your inventory, and they know that your TV was in the basement or something like that. Now you've eliminated the need for an additional cataloging or insurance claim. Now you just have to worry about fixing your basement in this particular case. Now you just have to get a new couch. Like, you don't have to fight the insurance. You don't have to wait for those checks to come in. That's already proven. So that would be the plus to your thing. So the way that I was thinking about it was, you can put the speedometer in your car. I don't know if you've seen those, where you can get a reduced rate on your car insurance.
Yep.
I've had friends that do that, and then they, if you drive safe, then you get a discount on your insurance or something like that, small percent. But that could be an incentive to hook up your service, your cameras or things like that, to directly to your insurance, so that they know, we're not going to ask. Maybe we ask for less verification. Maybe we just say, oh, great, like, sorry that happened, but here's a check for all of the stuff that you need to replace. How expedited that could be would be very helpful. The obvious con to that is now we're going to get into the privacy stuff. You're probably already thinking about that. So I don't want to take that away from you, but the con.
No, you can keep
is,
going. I wasn't actually
Yeah.
going towards privacy, so I think you're good. Keep going.
Well, at least my most obvious con, which I'll bring this up right away, is now you're sort of giving another big company access to your home, what you own, and that obviously can cause a lot of privacy issues. It's just a heightened level of, I would say, invasion into your home, especially with cameras and things like that. And then you worry about secure data breaches in these certain situations. So I have a lot of reservations with that part of it, though. I could see why a company would be like, why would you not? That you're just you get a discount. So stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, that was something I honestly wasn't even going towards privacy. So I think that's a really great point. Somebody could kind of just get into that system and see what you have. But then again, on the flip side, I think with anything, you're outweighing the benefits versus the negative of, again, to your point, like everything's cataloged and ready to go. I guess my question is the question you always ask me, where I'm like, do we have to really go there, is how are you making money off this? Some of my ideas, I'm like, Marc, we don't need to think about the money. It's just a great idea. How is someone making like money off of this idea? Or where do you think that's coming from?
Well, so you're right. I do always ask you this
That's
one.
always what you push me on. So I'm like, I got to push you back.
Hey, it's important to know where it's coming back.
That's what we're here for.
I have a few answers to that question.
Okay.
I think one of the bigger ones that comes to mind, and again, this is going to go right into that con of invasion of privacy, but it is a way to make money. So let's put the interest in privacy over to the side for just a second, because companies sell your data in all other situations.
Right.
Okay. So, and while you might be personally against that, obviously, very few people want that. I could see a world where this app allows for advertisements from companies. Let's just say Amazon. Let's say they sell your data to Amazon, for example, they sell the fact that you have a couch from 2005. Now you could have targeted advertisements through Amazon, for example. They're like, hey, would you like this newer model of the couch? Or, if you purchase through us, like, a licensed partner, you can get a 20% discount because we're sending you an individualized discount based on what we see that you might need. A new TV. But again, that, there's that issue. But I think that there's a lot of room for advertisements in the same way that other companies already targeted advertise to you. If you've ever talked to anyone about anything, and 2 seconds later on your phone or on your Instagram or anything like that, all of a sudden now that thing you just talked about is on there, and there's products related to it. So there could be room for monetization there as the owner of this app.
I love that angle. And I think you and I on our episodes, we're always very careful to kind of hit that item that like the data is where you're making money.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lessons from school, going to law school, was if the product's free, you are the product. And so I like to think about that all the time. We live in a world where, to your point, you go on Instagram. I had it happen to me this weekend. I was joking with some friends about something, and literally the targeted ad was so ridiculous when I signed into social media. Like, you can't even make it up. So it's out there. It's part of the society we live in. And I think we're not here to be political about it. I think it's just a matter of fact. So I think that's great to point out. And again, I think that's always one where we're like, well, it's the data. So that is a good point, making money. Do you have any other thoughts around that?
Yeah, this is a smaller one. So that I think would be the best way to make money, because then you're tying yourself directly to these bigger companies. You could, write to the insurance company. You could be a partner with the insurance companies. You could partner with Amazon or Walmart or these bigger distribution sites. So I think that would be the best way to make money. Now, maybe a smaller niche, and something actually you were sort of hitting on earlier was the personal use aspect of it. So this could be an app tied to other cameras in your house. Let's just say a Ring. That's probably the first thing that comes to my mind. But just for the fact of having something that can catalog everything where you were at, what room in the house is it in, would I think be very useful. Let's say you forgot where the remote is and you've got these cameras all set up. It already knows that, somebody else in your house put the remote in the next room. I think families might use that if it's an effective system, and you could monetize that just by the service itself.
Yeah. So with what you're saying, like to take this product and kind of, if we're pivoting it, just sidestepping the idea of like it being for disaster relief and recovery of your items, back to kind of the concept of, I'll say, inventory of, for your small business like mine with House of Heidi or Christmas decor. I kind of love the idea of it geo-marketing and telling you, hey, like we know that you have this aesthetic going on with your decor. Have you thought about X, Y, and Z, or like this new product that's out there? So I think however you would take that, I do think there's opportunities that, I don't know, I find that attractive in the app as well, or in the product. I shouldn't say app, but in the interface of the product.
Yeah, I think the best way to do it is an app interface. I think it's I know I tried not to, but I tried. But I like the product itself is, you could even have cameras already set up, like individualized for this particular product. Doesn't have to be a combination of something else. But I think for ease of access, really, it's on your phone. Wouldn't you rather, instead of having to log into your computer, walk to the other room, log into your computer and say, where is my remote? It's in the same room I was just in. Like, that kind of thing.
So I want to stop you for a second, because I think maybe now are you picturing these cameras on like all the time? Or, because I think initially when you said camera, I pictured like more of like a scanning of photos. And that's where I was confused with, how can you prove that you have that? But are you picturing like these as cameras in your home all the time, which I also don't think is, I've had a camera in my house before. Like, I don't think it's too far off base that could be a product people use. So
I think, yes, actually, I was thinking of it as a live feed originally. And the reason I pivoted to that was because kind of how I mentioned earlier, some competitive services that are out there and companies, they will come in, let's say a few times a year or at specific timeframes, but they have to come in. And then they catalog it then, let's just say every 6 months or every year. And so my idea is that there is no lag time. Because what happens if month 5, a month before they're going to catalog again, you bought a brand new TV.
Right.
$2,000 TV, let's just say. And that gets blown away in the flood in the interim between you doing that, and it's not logged. So the live feed, while obviously has some privacy concerns, no doubt, it eliminates that problem because you have now cataloged and I mentioned chipped earlier. There's a way you could chip the devices. I'm also not a shipping expert. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there must be a way to do it in an easier way. That's why I was thinking live feed. Obviously, there's, we could go in between for both of those. But.
And I don't think it's, that far off. So we had in our home Life 360. Mm-hmm. And the camera was a part of, I believe what would happen is it would like turn on when there was no activity in the house. Like it could sense through your phone when you would leave or when you would come back. And that app I know is also then used to like help a lot of parents use it in tracking like not only where their kids are going, but it's used to track the speed of the car in some instances. But again, there's cameras in the home and that's how the app functions in knowing like when you're coming and going. So that was several years ago. I feel like it's probably developed much further along from that. But I bring that up just to say, again, like some of that technology is already being used for tracking of other things. And I believe even that's, like I said, the speed of the car goes all the way back to what you said in the beginning about some of the insurance discounts that you can get as well, is I think similar through apps like that. So it all kind of worked though through a camera in the home. So that's the best way I can explain it. But I do think that technology is already being used in some ways, and it's not really that far-fetched to imagine the camera kind of in the home live all the time, or at least honestly, picking up on this stuff. Maybe it's not even the people, but there's something that it's like picking up on, from time to time as well.
Yeah. I actually honestly didn't even know that's what they would use I didn't know it could sense when you're out of the house and turn
it was
on.
really wild because I think the nice feature about it, and for us personally, it was kind of weird of the idea of having a camera rolling in your house all the time, right? And so it would pick up when the two of us, like both cell phone users, were leaving the house and it knew no one was home. It would start working, which is kind of. Again, this has been, I think it was over 5 years ago that we got rid of it. So this is an older technology that has been around a while, maybe kind of in comparison to what we're talking about today, that it already does kind of exist. Down a rabbit hole there, I know.
No, that's great.
We really went on a tangent.
No, that's okay. I think one of the big things that drew me to this kind of idea is that there's a lot of ways to integrate this. So like I didn't even really even know about that. But I knew that people do have security cameras in their house rolling, at least on the outside, pretty much all the time. A lot of people at my
Yep.
grandparents have a Ring camera. My parents have a Ring camera. Like I know the amount of times, you see a video online, how many times is it a Ring camera? A good percentage of the time. I was thinking about the way that you could integrate this in alongside apps. How many times have we mentioned that AI can be integrated in here? But it is true because you can have an AI type program identify what that thing is. You can do that. I know people do that with clothes. I know people do
Yep.
that with furniture. So that even in the prototype AI market that we're kind of in, it's already relatively accurate. It could pull up the Amazon equivalent. I know there's lots of people who can find is it Shein?
Yep.
The Shein version of the thing, right? We use
Yep.
Temu, whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing. The discounted version of the thing, and that's the only way they can do that is to be able to
through the
correctly,
image.
right, exactly, correctly identify the image or at least get close enough. And the estimated value is just not even a full step away from that. I mean, that's barely any more information than you would need. So that was kind of that's another way that I was drawn to this being able to like be a fully functional idea.
Yeah.
Any criticisms that you are maybe seeing so far, or any more
I think
cons?
it's a great concept. I'd be curious into understanding really like if it could help, if you could connect it to the insurance and make that even
Yeah.
more seamless. I see this being a product where I'm like, absolutely, totally on board. I think even without that, though, I do love the idea of being able to catalog all of your belongings and to, have that ready to go in case you would have a home disaster. And also, even like the side conversation we had of if that's not even the full reason you're doing it, I think there's other applications for the product that once you had it developed, you could market it to other types of groups. But I do
Yeah.
like kind of the disaster liability insurance claim angle the best. Is I think that's a really great point. Cons, I think what we're talking about with like the privacy and the cameras, it's like figuring out how you're doing that, how you're selling that and getting around it. I guess another question that maybe that kind of touches on is what do you think of in terms of like marketing this product? Like, would you really kind of go after the heartstrings and talk about like, post disaster, like what that looks like? We've all seen different commercials or advertisements like that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like insurance type stuff, or like I said, even being in the disaster world, I don't know, just all of disaster relief type of things. What do you picture like that marketing being?
I think I'm probably personally resistant to here's a disaster, so let's
Right.
put in another privacy concerning thing into your home.
Yeah.
To me that feels more predatory. And so I think I'd be personally resistant to that. And I think people pick up on that as well. And so I think the marketing wouldn't be as strong if you were like, your house flooded, put a camera in your house for me. Like, I feel like as though that's
Yeah.
not as strong,
Yep.
hot take. I think the better marketing is kind of like the more casual aspect of it. It's flipped, right? Because I think there's more money in the brand, the bigger marketing for companies and the insurance and things like that. But I think the better marketing is like, my kid took my hat, put it in another
Yep.
room. I think that would sell better because how often are we looking for things in our houses? All the time, right? You're always looking for. Well, you know what? I'll just say me. I guess I don't know for you, but for me, I'm constantly looking for stuff that I myself have moved around and couldn't even tell you what room it's in. No idea. So I think I would market it in that way. Let's take it from the insurance company perspective. Let's say it's a partnership or something. They can market it as a discount, like that safe
Yep.
driver thing we mentioned earlier. While not good necessarily from people's privacy perspective, people are also maybe less resistant to it than I might personally be. They could say, all right, well, if I get 20% on that insurance, then like they're not really seeing anything in my house. What do I have to hide?
Right.
So I think you market it as sort of a discount thing to ease the whole process for both sides, really, because you're quickening up how it gets through insurance, and then those claims are already cleared out and done. So yeah, those would be the kind of different ways I would do it.
It's kind of like the next, if you're thinking of this through the angle of the insurance company that's like adding this on, taking this on, or, I'd also be curious, like on their back end of filing, you think of, okay, after a flood, they're getting all of these claims, all of this paperwork and stuff that they're having to go through. This is also really a efficient step for them and product as well. So maybe it's like, even as you kind of said, the partnership, like there's a lot of benefits in that way as well. That's going to like speed up the efficiencies around this.
There could be good widespread commercial use and also like personal family use. I really like the thing. I didn't think about the small business aspect. I think that would be also really helpful. And I'm sure that they already have inventory type applications, but I think this is trying to improve on the process more so than totally innovate something completely new. Integrating AI would be helpful. And I think also constant like monitoring of coming and going inventory is
right.
I would imagine for an inventory type business, small business, that takes up a lot of time and energy
time
and effort.
Energy, effort. Time is the biggest thing. It's like if you're a small startup, you don't have the patience to do that.
And I'm sort of imagining somebody like, let's just say a t-shirt business, for example, out of your garage. Plenty of people do that, and it's very successful. I think if you had a way to automatically log the inventory as soon as you hit it on the shelf, rather than having to either type it in or track it or things like that, you could make sales faster. You could ship out sales faster, which is really the whole goal, as long as you're getting the sales. So I didn't think about the small business, but I think that that's also a really good group to market to.
Yeah. And the Christmas decor. Don't forget about that.
You know what I did for, I can't forget about that.
Did you did you talk about this product with your friend that was like explaining the situation? Or did you like think of the idea and now like they're going to have to learn about this through the episode and give us feedback if they would use it or not?
I honestly walked away from the conversation with him, and like on the drive home, I was thinking, I was like, this might have helped. This might have helped a little bit. Like I was like, all right, can I help him somehow? Can I help move the furniture or whatever? And he's like, no, I got plenty of help. It's okay. And I was thinking, I was like, is there any other way that, like, what else would have helped is what I was thinking to myself. And I think this may have been a way to help, just because I heard the struggles of going through the cataloging and making sure, and if things were already destroyed and thrown away, like in the heat of the moment of cleaning, you just lost whatever that was. So yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have the idea then. He was in the thick of it, so I was thinking, probably it'll.
What about this idea? Don't worry about your problem. What do you think of this idea?
This idea, that doesn't exist yet, and also I'm going to tell lots of people that you're not going to use this at all. And I'm glad you fixed your basement, but we're not going to use it.
Well, I think like most ideas on house business, it comes from like a problem that we're dealing with. So this is perfect. And I hope he gives us his feedback on whether or not he would use it. But I think it's great. And I want to hear feedback from everyone else on like, what did we miss here? And also, I'd love to hear feedback from listeners like on the cameras.
Yeah. Are you pro cameras in your house? Or are you not pro cameras in your house?
Right.
Do we know who Carson Daly is? Do we not know who Carson Daly is?
Carson Daly has some cameras in his house, I'm sure of it.
Who's to say? Shout out Carson Daly.
Shout out Carson Daly. All right. Well, if you take this idea, you become rich off it, call your friends, Nicole and Marc, have us on your boat. I love that we're always like, we want to go on someone's boat. But as you know, if we win $1 million, that's what we're doing anyways. So
we'll have our own boats.
We'll have our own boats.
Which you could come on.
You can come on if you do this idea. Let us know.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on House Business.
Hey, now feels like a great time to mention that this podcast is produced by My4 Creative.
Couldn't think of a better time than now.
They work with businesses and organizations on all their video marketing needs, and they make it a super simple process.
I hear they're doing podcasts now. Is that true?
It is. New this year, they are offering podcast production, which is super exciting.
And believe me when I say, they make you look and sound your absolute best.
We look awesome. Learn more at my4creative.com. My4 Creative, video production simplified. Now, back to business. So, did receive some feedback on our episode 4, QR Dead, which I think is one of our most popular episodes because we get a good amount of feedback. But I did receive some feedback from a friend, Sarah, who talked about how she is actually doing something similar to honor her sister. So Sarah's sister, Lauren, unfortunately passed away from cancer in 2021. And she was talking to me about the episode and actually shared that one thing they're doing to remember her sister is they have been painting rocks. And these rocks are just beautiful. I actually looked at a few of them. But on the back of them, they're placing them in different areas around the country. So all of her friends are doing this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really neat. And the one thing that's really cool about it is on the back is there is a QR code. And the back of it says, live like Lolo. So her nickname was Lolo for Lauren. And the QR code actually takes you to a Facebook page with all of the rocks that people are finding and posts from others with little messages about her. So I thought that was such a sweet way to remember her by, but also just kind of a really cool connection when me and Sarah were talking about it, that, you know, how the QR code is actually working to keep these stories alive and remember some of that. So I thought that was great feedback. I asked her if that was okay to share. And, you know, she wanted this story to get out. She loves her sister and so wants more people to remember her. So just wanted to share that.
Wow, that's great. And it is wild to see how close that was to the original idea in practice. I mean, that it's very similar in terms of keeping the person alive through an internet forum. So very cool to hear.
Yeah, I thought so too. So shout out, Sarah. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Shout out, Sarah.
I think one thing I do want to hit on is we are really looking for our first listener idea. So if you want to be our first listener, you think you have an idea that me and Marc can talk out, debate a little bit, and maybe let you know how you could get the business started or some considerations that we would think about, please send us a DM, a direct message, a voice memo. We'd love to hear the idea and reach out to maybe get some of your feedback on that idea. We'll have our producer give you a call. You can share it with them. And then me and Marc will talk it out. So we'd love to have our first call in. What do you think, Marc?
Love it. Love it. And just to remind everybody, we love voice memos. So please send us voice memos. Yeah.
You'll get on the air. Send it to us.
Yeah, you'll get on the air.
You'll get on the air. I also have a really great stat. Now that we have over 10 episodes, Marc, we're actually in the top 10% of all podcasts out there. So
what? That's so many podcasts.
I know, there's a lot. And really that metric is figured off consistency and dedication. So I think similar to these ideas, if you're maybe consistent and dedicated enough, you might reach $1 million. Is that a stretch to make that connection? But it's pretty exciting to hear that.
It was only a stretch insofar that it stretched. So we're fine. Everything worked out. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, now we're getting loopy. But as always, you can follow us and leave us voice memos or give us feedback on House Business Podcast. You can watch us on YouTube or listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So we love that you guys are here.
Cheers.
Cheers. Like Marc, send it. I'm like, send us.
This right here feel like money. This right here feel like money. Ooh. Money moves. Ooh. Money moves. Ooh.